Improve your time trial. The dreaded fitness time trial. Many athletes around the world are shuddering at the idea of having to run a 2K or a 3K or a 2.2 or a 3x1, whatever it is, whatever your fitness trial is. It's usually the mark of start of pre-season, running a time trial. Now, while a time trial seems more like a punishment for most athletes, it's actually a really valuable tool for a coach, and then therefore an athlete as well. It provides the coach a way to measure their athlete's fitness level, and in turn guides a lot of the decision making around what type of training the coach is going to plan for the athletes. It's just a general look at the time trial as a measure of aerobic capacity or cardiovascular fitness. And it's just a really simple way to do it. There's many ways to do it, and there's more accurate ways to do it as well within like a lab setting. But when you're in a team setting, you've got 30 to 60 athletes. You need something that's like relatively time efficient, doesn't take up too much time, so you can actually do some sports training, and something that's like easy to execute and understand, gives you some pretty good data, and something that you can test and then retest in a really reliable setting, so things can easily be replicated, so you're getting a nice comparison between the first time you did it and the second time you do it. So what we're trying to do though with a time trial, and generally any kind of other fitness testing, this can apply to the same, is the times itself is literally just what we're going to use as a comparison, but it doesn't really help us from a training perspective. Other than the time itself, it doesn't give us a guide of what we should be doing. It can allow us to categorize some athletes into, fit, moderately fit, less fit, not fit. You can do it that way, but we need to actually derive a score, almost like a fitness score, from these time trial results. And the score that we typically use is the maximal aerobic speed score. Now, maximal aerobic speed is basically your average time trial speed, so the speed at which you're running at, or the lowest speed at which maximum oxygen uptake occurs. And really all this just means is it's the fastest you can go while just staying in an aerobic state, so while utilizing oxygen. If you go any faster, you're going to kick into more of the anaerobic systems, which means that oxygen can't quite keep up and you'll start to slow down and burn out and you'll stop. So these types of tests won't necessarily test the anaerobic capacity of an athlete, which can be important. It's almost a separate test within itself. We're looking at more the aerobic capacity, which, depending on what sport you're playing, can be either really critical or not critical at all. So it's important to identify whether doing a time trial is even necessary for your sport. Most team sports, though, need an element of fitness. They go longer than 2 minutes. So if anything goes longer than 2 minutes, you're going to need to use some kind of aerobic capacity. So it's important for most other team-based sports. Now from here, no matter what your kind of time trial distance is, you need to work out this MAS score. The MAS score will kind of help you determine what training distances and times you should be running at to improve your time trial score. So to work out an MAS score, first we want to convert your kilometer distance into meters and convert your minute per second time into total seconds. So for example, if it was a 2 kilometer time trial, we want 2,000 meters, and if you ran it in 7 minutes and 30 seconds, we times 7 by 60, and then plus the extra 30 seconds gives you 450 seconds. Now, to get the actual score, we want to divide 2,000 meters by 450 seconds, which gives us 4.44 recurring meters per second. All right, so this is a number that we can use in many different ways. So the first is through interval training. Interval training is probably actually going to be our best way. The reason we like the interval training is because it breaks up the running volume into small increments, and it actually allows us to run harder and faster than your time trial score, and that's where the adaptations occur. Because if you can train your body to want to run faster than what it can actually do at the time trial, it'll eventually adapt to that. So when you go back to the time trial, you should theoretically be able to run faster. So as an example, what we're looking at here is if you can run, if your score is 4.44 meters per second, and you run 120 seconds, you're going to cover 532 meters. Or you can flip it the other way around to make sure that you're running at an average of 4.44 meters a second. You want to run 532 meters in 120 seconds. Yeah, that works both ways. Now, that initial score that I just gave you, that's 100% of your MAS score. So that's what you can run at for that 2 kilometer time trial. Now, to get the actual improvements in your time trial score, we need to run super maximally. So we need to run at speeds above what your time trial score is. So how we can do this is we can just add a multiplier to your 4.4 meters per second MAS score. So you can do 105%, you can do 110%, 115%, 120%. So you can kind of do whatever, it does matter. So you typically don't want to go over 120%. You can. Above 120%, you're probably more going into that anaerobic capacity, which can be really important down the track and can train that quality. But if I think we want to stay on the aerobic side of things and help you improve your time trial, which is typically more aerobic, as we just said, then 120% is probably the highest we want to go. So to work that out, let's say, for example, at 110%, you would do 4.44 meters per second times 1.1, which gives you 4.88 meters per second. So that's 110% of your MAS score. 120% would be 4.44 times 1.2, which gives you 5.33 meters per second. Okay, so you're running over those typical time frames that we worked out before, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. You'd have to run 585 meters in 2 minutes to be running at 4.88 meters a second, and you'd have to run 640 meters in 2 minutes to be running at 5.33 meters a second. So that gives you kind of like a rough idea. Yeah, typically, we'd probably start at the lower end, the 4.88 meters a second, and then build your way up to that 5.33. Rest periods are also really important when we're doing this stuff. We want to stay in this aerobic zone. So if you rest too little, if the rest is not long enough, you're actually going to find a point where you can't repeat any more efforts, and you might not accumulate enough running volume to actually see improvements, and you'll actually be ticking more into that anaerobic zone, which is not what we want. We want to keep this relatively aerobic. If you rest too long, then you're getting almost too much recovery, and again, that aerobic system isn't adapting. It's not forcing to get any better because the rests are really long and you're kind of freshening up every single time. So we typically use a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio for our intervals, for our shorter intervals. So anything kind of from that 120 seconds and under, a 1-to-1 work rest ratio. Anything above that, and you can go into the 2-to-1 work rest ratio. So that's where long intervals kind of come in. So you can actually flip the script a little bit here. And what I mean by that is you can actually determine how fast you can run a certain distance in. So for example, let's say you're running repeat 1Kers. Well, if you wanted to work out how fast you need to run that 1K in to get your 4.88 meters per second, your 110% MAS, well, you actually need to run 1,000 meters in 205 seconds or 3 minutes and 25 seconds. This is probably actually a little bit too quick. I would actually pull it back a little bit to maybe 105%. So 105% of your MAS score would actually be 4.66 meters a second, which means that you're going to run 1,000 meters in 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, because it is a longer run, we would stretch this out to maybe a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. So if you're running a 3:34 1K, I'd probably get you to rest 1 minute and 45 seconds. Now that you kind of got like a rough idea of how you can structure your training, an example of how you might want to program it look, 2 days a week is going to be more than enough for most athletes, especially amateur athletes. Semi-professional athletes, you might want to add in a third day. But the 2 days that I would want to be ticking off to improve your time trial, remember that's what we're trying to do here, improve your time trial score. Day one, I'd be doing shorter intervals, so maybe like 3 sets of 5 160 meter efforts. You want to run that in 30 seconds and rest for 30 seconds. Have a 2-minute rest in between your sets. Then I'd probably typically have at least 1 to 2 days off in between before you did your next session. So day 2 would be maybe like 3 sets of 1,000 meter repeats, running them in 3:34 and resting, that 1:45 in between your sets. And then over 4 weeks, I'd slowly either increase the amount of repetitions that you're doing or decrease the amount of time that you run that distance in. If you wanted to add a third day in, I would actually do fartleks. So fartleks is like variable speed. So something like jog, run, walk. So jog for 20 seconds, run for 20 seconds, walk for 20 seconds, and do like 3 sets of 5 to 8 minutes of that. So somewhere kind of in between those two. Not too intense, but not too slow either. It's just a good way to get a little bit more volume into your training. The last thing that will actually help you improve your time trial is also learning how to pace. So often we see guys just like bang, jump out of the gates and they go super hard early, and then they die really early. And because you die off so early, you almost don't actually get a true reflection of what your actual fitness is, because you just went a bit too hard too soon and you end up getting a really slow score, even though you can probably run it faster than that. Remember that a time trial is actually a race. Like, it still is a race. That's why we have the 1,500 meter and the 5K events. Like, it's a race. So you can actually strategically plan your race. Kind of on the flip side, you also see guys, or see athletes almost starting out too slow, and then they come home really hard and they almost finish like, oh geez, I actually have a little bit more in the tank, which can be frustrating. So learning how to pace is important, and I guess a good way to do this is through the training that I mentioned just before. Like, that actually does help you learn how to pace properly, but that's specifically to the actual time trial event. A really great way is actually ahead of time know what the track is that you're running at, whether it's a 400 meter track or a football oval. Know how far that distance is. From there, you can kind of work out, okay, well, what do I need to be running a lap in to make the time that I want to make? So as an example, if you're around a 400 meter track, if you want to run a 7:30 2K time trial, that's 5 laps. You want to be running each lap in 90 seconds. So if you run each lap in 90 seconds, you will complete your time trial in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's important to kind of know what that feels like. What does it feel like to run a 90-second lap? Definitely helps if you're doing a time trial to have a watch and time yourself as you're doing the time trial. But you can definitely also practice this in your training. You could even make this your third day of your training. Is not necessarily go and run time trials, because that's silly. Don't do that. But to run kind of like the pace at which you need to. So you might do a lap at 90 seconds and then have like a 30 to 60 second rest. And this is more not necessarily to improve your fitness, but to get used to pacing. So to know how fast you need to be running to hit the pace that you want to hit. Most athletes hate doing time trials because they're scared of failing. But the truth is that it's not really a pass or fail test. It's more of just a measure to see where you're currently at. What I encourage is actually to change your mindset on the purpose of the time trial. This will help reduce a little bit of that anxiety around doing the time trial. It's going to be a lot less daunting if you challenge yourself more to just be getting better. So the first time trial is more just to see where you're at. And then the second one is to see like whether the hard work that you've put in has actually worked. So changing your perspective around the time trial and more embracing the benefits of it just helps reduce that anxiety and allows you to actually be a little bit more calmer and controlled, and hopefully perform a lot better in your time trial. Best of luck.